Paul Pigat.
Hello, Fiona Black.
Welcome to Backstage at CapU.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be back on this stage again.
Well, it's a huge honor to have you here, one of Vancouver's top maestros. And it's going to be great to hear you play on the stage.
It's going to be lovely to play on this stage again. It's an awesome place, and the acoustics are great, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's funny what you can find out about someone on their website. so Paul.
I'm just going to start filling it with lies.
I love this description. Blessed with a jazz man's sheen, a rockabilly heart, and a hobo soul, to describe you.
Yeah, I like that.
And I also liked this quote, the motorhead of rockabilly, which of course is referring to Cousin Harley.
I got a buzz deep down inside, yeah, man, it's something I just can't hide.
Yeah.
So you play everything, Paul. You play jazz, blues, folk, country, rockabilly. Is there any style of music that you don't play? Classical, maybe.
Well, I'm trained.
Trained
I'm classically trained. So yeah, I do play classical. I'm sure there's lots. There's lots of things that I'd love to try and do that I haven't done yet.
Heavy metal.
Grew up as a metalhead.
Oh no.
Went to go see Iron Maiden last time they were here. It was awesome.
Oh, when did they play? So somehow I missed that. Paul, when did they play here?
They played a week before my 50th birthday last year.
Oh my God. So they're still going strong, I imagine?
Yes, I saw them 35 years before that, and I think they were better this time.
Oh.
So it was awesome. So metal, yes,
Super.
I like my metal.
Now I've heard there's a connection between jazz and heavy metal.
I'm sure there is.
Do you hear that?
Yeah. Depending on what kind of jazz. Like I don't know if swing jazz has a lot to do with heavy metal, but I think maybe some more aggressive experimental jazz would probably definitely have some kind of connection. I think all music is somehow connected. You know, I've never been a purist of any one style. So like I'll take the classical music that I learned when I was in university, and I'd mix it with the blues music I was playing before that, and I'd mix it with rockabilly that I've done since then, and then I'll put western swing in it, and then sometimes I'll play sweep picking, which is a metal shred thing in the middle of a country song. So
Wow.
you just slam it all, put it all together. That's the only way to make something interesting that's somewhat different.
Well, it's working for you, absolutely.
There's 5 people that think so, and I'm really glad you're one of them.
Oh, not at all. I feel lucky to live in Vancouver, and I get to hear you play live fairly regularly, even during this COVID time when there's not many opportunities to play live anymore. But I've got to see you in a garden party and at the Fire Hall concert series, which I hope continues. And how's the COVID period been for you?
It's been interesting, This is definitely the longest I've gone without really gigging since I was probably 13. But I've recorded a couple records, so I've tried to use my time wisely. I recorded a record with Kevin Bright. I've started a couple of other records. I finished up a Cousin Harley record. I've been building guitars like there's no tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to do with them all, but I've got a lot of guitars now that I've built.
Is that a new hobby for you to build guitars?
No, I've always built guitars. I built my first guitar when I was probably about 13, and I never made any good guitars. I'm not claiming that I make good guitars.
Do you play your own guitars?
Yeah, I usually do. Yeah, I usually do. I've gotten much better in the last 15 years, and I don't build them very often. It used to be that I would do one guitar every 2 years. And now, because I have all this extra time and I have access to a shop, I'm basically trying to find all the lost causes I can find. So the premise is that I have to find a guitar that I will rebuild and restore to some playability level that no one else would ever bother putting the time into.
It's like the island of misfit guitars.
That's exactly what it is. It's the island of misfit guitars. I've actually described it as that. Poor little thing. No one wanted it anymore. I'll try and make it into something. I've never been one to sit back and relax. I don't find that relaxing.
No.
I'm the kind of guy that's always got to be doing something. So, you know, yeah, this has really helped out for that, because normally I'd be on, you know, I would have spent the entire summer on the road. I was supposed to be in Europe in the fall, and that all kind of went away. So what are you going to do?
We just have to wait it out.
Yeah, get a bunch of guitars and fix them up.
So you're recording with Kevin Bright, but he lives in Ontario. So
Yeah.
Tell me how that's working.
That worked out really well. You know, I just sort of, I put it out there that I was going to do this sort of collaboration, and I'm calling it the shut-ins, because we were all shut in. This was back at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I just put it out there to a bunch of people that I knew, and I said, who wants to collaborate on this? And Kevin was really great. He came back right away, and then I have Tommy Babbitt on bass, who was living in Palo Alto, and then Damian Graham on the island playing drums. So basically, it would work that I would come up with an idea for a song, and I would track my part. You know, I'd get a general idea of how the song was going to work, and then I'd sort of work out my section. And if the song needed more structure, I would play more instruments on it. And then I would send it out to them and say, just get rid of my instruments and put on your instruments. And yeah, eventually it evolved into a record. I'm pretty happy with it. It was a fun record to do. Every time someone would send me a track, I'd put it on the computer, and I have a listen to it. And it would always make me smile, because they would always play something that I was completely not expecting.
Ah, that's great. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear it.
Me too. Me too.
We'll have to do a virtual CD release.
I would like that. Yeah, I'm still mixing it. This is my first time. I've produced a lot of records for other people, but mixing and engineering my own records, it's a bit of a learning curve. So I'll get something figured out, going, that's pretty good, and then I'll come back to it a couple of days later and go, no, that's not good enough. So this could go on for years.
Oh, we're all learning new skills.
Yeah.
Talk show host.
I know.
Who knew? I'd be sitting here with you. I do this with almost all my guests. I like to go back into the mists of time and ask what your first musical memory is.
My very first musical memory? Strangely enough, well, my very first musical memory with an instrument is, I remember, I was very young. I don't know how young, but I was very, very young. And I was up in northern Ontario, sort of Haliburton area, I had family that lived up there, and someone had a guitar. And I think it had 3 strings on it. And I couldn't figure out how it worked. Like I'd never seen anybody play a guitar before. And the people that I was visiting didn't play guitar either. So I just looked at this thing and I couldn't figure out how it worked. Yeah, so I was completely mystified by the instrument I've dedicated my life to. So
wow, so it got your attention.
It got my attention.
You wanted to figure it out.
I know this thing somehow is able to make a bunch of notes, but I couldn't figure out how to make it do it. You know, why's this stick on the end of it? But I remember hearing really young, when I was quite young, I remember hearing like Charlie Pride and Charlie Rich and stuff like that up there. So that's probably where I got the love of country music.
Ah, yeah.
And then when I got when my brother finally allowed me to touch his record collection, when I was old enough to touch his record collection, then the punk rock came in, and the metal came in, and the blues came in, and all the other stuff came in. And it all kind of mashes together into something. I'm sure when I was, starting off as a guitar player playing AC/DC tunes, I never thought I would go to university to study classical composition. But I got really into it. It changed. And then when I was doing that, who would have ever thought that I'd be playing hillbilly music after that? I never thought I'd be playing hillbilly music. However, my teacher, I still keep sheet music from Ellie Kastner's, that he gave me back then, because he was a really big influence on me. The music that I play now is very much Chet Atkins mixed with Django Reinhardt. That's the way I approach the guitar. And I found this piece of music, which it was a Villalobos etude, and on the back of it, in his handwriting, he obviously was trying to get me to research somebody, and it said Chet Atkins and Django Reinhardt.
Wow.
So he knew way before I knew where I was going.
Yeah. Well, you said you were playing at age 13.
Yes, I was playing around Toronto at age 13.
So at what age did you start playing guitar?
I think it was 11.
11, and
Yeah.
in 2 years you were playing professionally.
Oh yeah, I wasn't very good, but Yeah,
That-
with
you
13
were-
or 14, I was, yeah, because I had a bunch of friends. We were all musicians, and young guitar players. One guy was a drummer. His dad had a single show. His dad was a had a little drum machine and played guitar and sang, and he would play at the Diplomat Tavern downstairs, and somehow he got us a gig in the upstairs room, which was the full band room. And we would play that gig all the time. They'd roll us in. We were all very big. I didn't look 13, but I acted like I was 13.
And what kind of music were you playing?
Oh,
Everything?
Classic rock and roll, lots of country, lots of like Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, but then Bob Seger, and then every once in a while we'd bust out a Ramones tune or a Teenage Head song
Yeah.
or something. And
Do you remember what you got paid for these early gigs?
I think we made $65 a piece.
A piece.
A piece. I could be wrong. You know what? I'm probably wrong. Who would pay a child that money?
That's good though.
But the money was all right. I remember it was okay. I think it was just more fun just playing though.
Did you know that this was going to be your career?
Yeah. There was nothing else I was remotely interested in. I wasn't. I was very. I was very solitary as a kid. I was painfully shy as a child, and this was the only thing that remotely I could get myself to do, and not really have to worry about being around other people. And then when I got good enough to be around other people, then it became even more fun. So yeah, I always knew that. I have a little tattoo here of a music note that I got when I was 15 years old.
Aw.
And I got that because I said, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So now it looks, when I was young, it was like this substantial music note, and now it's this little tiny music note. It looks ridiculous.
Well, you've got lots of different bands and projects always on the go, Paul. It suits how broad your music is and your tastes are. From the Smoking Jackets, maybe just tell us a little bit about one of your first bands when you'd moved from the east to Victoria, BC, and started
Yeah.
the Smoking Jackets. And I know you have a gig coming up tomorrow.
Tomorrow, that's right,
At
yeah.
Herman's.
The Smoking Jackets started off, it's a strange story, but I moved out west in 1994. And in 1994, maybe it was because it was the year of the Commonwealth Games, and I arrived the day the Commonwealth Games started. And I was always, in Toronto, I was always I was kind of the young hot shot on the downtown scene, the downtown blues scene. So I always was able to get gigs. It never, and I worked in country bands, and there was always a place for a guitar player. And then when I moved out west, there were so many people moving out west at the same time. And I don't know why. Maybe Ontario was kind of musically, it was drying up at the time, but there just seemed to be a lot of musicians, and no one would really give any of the musicians that were coming out at the time of day because they knew they weren't going to stick around. And it's true, many left, and I could see why they wouldn't do that. But I had a really hard time finding any work when I was completely, I had been used to playing all the time, going to university during the day, playing every night. So after a while, I just decided that I better start learning how to sing because I'd never sang before. I sang in university, but because I had to. But I was once again deathly shy, and I had gotten over most of that, but not about singing. So I had to learn how to sing. So I learned how to sing, and I started sitting in every once in a while. And then a drummer came out and said, "We need a vocalist for our band for Tuesday." And they said, "Well, you do it and play guitar." And I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I only had 4 songs. So I spent the whole week learning material. And I went and played the night. And at the end of the night, I said, "Thanks, man. That was fun. And if you need someone else, if you need me to do this again, please let me know." And he said, "Yeah, we need someone for next week." I said, "Great." So I learned more songs. Came back the next week. And of course, played the show. It said the exact same thing at the end of the night. He says, "Well, you had the gig last week, so it's your gig now."
So it was a weekly gig.
So
Yeah.
I had the gig. So, and they didn't have a name. And I realized that every musician in this band was a jazz musician. So I said, "Well, I've always wanted to play jazz, so let's only play jazz because since I'm the singer, I get to choose the songs." So I just chose all traditional jazz tunes, and I said, "Okay, the band's name is the Smoking Jackets," because I collected a bunch of smoking jackets because I was a bit of a dandy at the play. I had a good dress collection. I dressed well. So yeah, and then we worked for, once we got that going, because that was kind of the beginning of the swing revival, 94, 95. And and we worked quite steadily, a lot, until about 2001, which is when I left. And now we do it, usually, pre-pandemic, we would do 3 shows a year. I would go back to Victoria and do 3 shows a year with the band.
Cousin Harley,
Yeah.
switching gears completely. Punk ass rockabilly.
Punk ass rockabilly. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, it's punk ass rockabilly. Yeah, but it's still it's an amalgamation of everything, right? Like I play the same stuff I play with the Smoking Jackets, but I just play it a lot faster.
Yeah.
And that started off. Originally, it was a little recording project I did with a friend of mine, and in Victoria, and I played all the instruments on the record because I play upright bass and I play steel guitar, and I did have Ken Kempster from No Means No play drums on a couple of tunes. It was not too long after I made that record that they needed someone to start up a band for a venue that had just opened up in Victoria, the Lucky Bar. And they wanted a rockabilly band, and they came to me and said, "Will you put a rockabilly band together?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll put a rockabilly together." And I put the band together, and the bass player, the bass player and the drummer, neither one of them had ever played any rockabilly before, so I had to teach them how to do it. And the bass player had just bought his bass; he had never played upright bass before.
Wow.
So I taught him how to play upright bass, and he was.
It's a DIY band.
He turned out to be a fantastic bass player. He was great. And yeah, we started, and it was really punky then. It was more sludgy, grindy rockabilly back then. And that sort of, and it's kind of evolved.
Is Ray Kondo a mentor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a huge fan. When I moved out west, and I knew who Ray was back in Ontario because he had the Hard Rock Goners out of Montreal, and then when I moved out west, I got to see him a lot because I would come over to Vancouver and I would hang out with friends, and then we'd always go down and catch Ray play either at one of the many gigs that he would play. And the Ricochets were, in my opinion, one of the best rockabilly swing bands of all times. And I loved the way Ray was. He was a curmudgeon of a dude, but man, he could croon like the best of them. Like he could hoot and holler like a hillbilly, and the next second, he could be as smooth as Mel Torme. I loved it.
Got to see Ray play the Marine Club.
Yes.
Many times. What a scene it was.
The world famous Marine Club.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I spent a lot of time, and actually, when Ray stopped doing that gig, I took over that gig.
Ah.
The Friday nights at the Marine Club.
With Cousin Harley.
With Cousin Harley.
Ah.
Yes, and then just Ray and I became buddies, and we were both going through a very difficult time at the same time, and we would hang out and we'd co-commiserate, and then he asked me to be in the band, and then I was playing with Lee Aaron at the time, and I went on tour with Lee Aaron, and he died when I was on tour with Lee Aaron.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah.
So sad.
So sad.
So sad.
But man, what a
Died.
legacy of fantastic music he left.
He went too young.
He did.
As many have. Your Boxcar Campfire project. Let me hear what the genesis of that was, or describe it for me.
Okay. I started the Boxcar thing because I was hanging out with Monty and Peter Allen, who were 2 local fixtures at the time on Commercial Drive, and I just started getting in. I was into acoustic music and acoustic blues. I've always listened to it, but I never really played it. And sort of I got into that, and I've always been a big fan of Townes Van Zandt, so I started adapting that kind of music into something, and then we eventually started playing together. But the very first gig that would be what we would consider to be a Boxcar gig was actually in Dublin.
Ah.
Yeah, I was playing with Nico Case, and I was playing bass for Nico Case, playing upright bass for her. And the opening band couldn't show for that gig in Dublin. And Paul Rigby was on the gig, Barry Mirajnik was on the gig, John Rawhouse was on the gig. And John didn't know my material, but Paul and Barry kind of had been hanging out, and they would come sit in every once in a while when we were playing with Monty in Vancouver. So they asked me if I would open the show, and I opened the show with a full band. And it was the very first time Boxcar ever had a full band. And once I heard that, I go, oh, right, now I know how this is supposed to sound. So that was the very first one. And then it went over very well. I had a couple of great young men come out and really enjoyed it and took me out on a wild night in Dublin. It was fantastic. What little I remember.
It's a super town.
It is a lovely place.
Temple Bar. Yeah, it's just pub after pub after pub, and the traditional music in every little nook and cranny.
Oh yeah, yeah. It just I enjoyed that night. Well, first of all, it was a great night musically. I had a great time playing that show. I loved playing with Nico.
Yeah.
Because I'm on Nico's first record, and then I didn't do any other stuff, and then I just got called in to do this tour, and I love playing with her, and I love her whole band is fantastic. And then to top off the night with a couple of great, local guys to just take me out on the town was, this project might be worth pursuing. I'm not sure which part of it, but.
Super. I love the variety, and it's just fantastic. Well, it's time for our blindfolds.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
Oh yeah, I'm going to lose. I'm going to fail so terribly at this.
We'll have fun regardless,
Okay.
just talking about music, and want to hear your musician's ears
Okay.
opinion on the tunes. The year is 1968. I'll give you that clue.
68.
68, yeah.
68. It's not Leo Kaki.
No,
No. It's not John Fahey.
no.
It's not John Renborn.
It's John Renborn.
Is it John Renborn? Oh, well there you go. It's John Renborn. Of course it's John Renborn.
It's a Booker T song.
Yeah, I've never heard this one.
Sweet potato.
I've never heard this one.
So you like? Yeah.
I do like
Yeah.
it. It's bluesier than what I'm used to hearing from John Renborn, because it's like The Hermit and then all the British folk music that he did. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I've never heard that. That's great.
So it's Sweet Potato, John Renborn from the 1968 album Sir John a Lot of Merry England's Music Thing and Ye Green Night.
Yeah, that was the 60s. It was the 60s,
It sounds
man.
like a Monty Python
Oh yeah,
title.
totally.
I just picked that because I wanted to say the album title. But John Renborn, one of your heroes or one of your favorites?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, as a composer, I was I was just nuts for his compositions. Especially there was one that really, the tune called "The Hermit." I loved it, and the only I found out about John Renborn because of a teacher when I was in high school, who was a very accomplished acoustic guitar player, and he would play this, and I would go, "What is going on?" It was, first of all, I had never really played in open tunings before, so that was an introduction to open tunings, and I was just getting into fingerstyle guitar, and I was sort of, that was another big thing for me. And just the harmony of how it worked, and the way he would incorporate harmonics over top of his, to make these runs that with these cascading, it was like Debussy, right? It was almost like these cascading runs that would start off with notes and then shape themselves into harmonics and then, turn into something. It was like just flowers blooming everywhere when he played. And, still to this day, there's only been a very few handful of people that I've met that have made me completely tongue-tied. And when I met John Renborn, I was tongue-tied.
Where did you meet him?
At the Vancouver Island Music Fest.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's influenced by classical, Baroque, medieval,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
early
when I was
music, yeah.
Yeah, when I was in university, I listened to two. Even though I was studying classical music, I had a very specific thing that I liked. I liked medieval and Baroque music, and I liked 20th century. The whole middle section really didn't get me very much. So You know, I guess that's why I love John Rembert so much, because there was this sort of classical or this Baroque medieval side of him, but then, you know, there was a very modern side to him as well, which I really like that.
Yeah, he can be pretty adventurous too.
Yeah.
His collaboration with Bert Jansch, Baroque folk. That's what
Baroque.
this was called.
He's a man with many titles.
There you go. Well, there you go. You got that one.
All right, well, it took three people,
That
but
was
I got
okay.
it.
You got
I got
there.
it, okay. Black Sabbath. I'm just going with Black Sabbath for the next one.
Okay.
Charlie Hunter. Is one instrument or two instruments?
No, there's two.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Right,
It could be Charlie Hunter with the bass lines. Yeah, for sure.
I have no idea who this is.
You guessed him in the first song.
Is it Leo Kaki?
Leo Kaki.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. No, I've never heard this either.
It's a new album. The song is
Oh.
called Flat Top. It just came out. It's a 2020 release.
Oh, it's brand new.
It's brand new with Mike Gordon, the bass player from Fish.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
yeah.
they've done, this is their third record together, but there's been a 15-year break in between. So it was new music from Leo Kaki.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So
See, I thought the only person I could have thought it would have been was a guy named Antonio Forzioni, and I no one knows who Antonio Forzioni is, and Neil Stacy, and I thought maybe it's them, but then they have that sort of light bouncy vibe to that as well. But neither one of them play bass.
is this really different for Leo Kaki for you?
I think so,
Were you
yeah.
hearing it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really different. Yeah, I've never heard him play anything like that before. I like it.
So he plays the 6-string and the 12-string guitar. He opened our Global Roots series last year. It was a real honor. I had never had the pleasure to present him before. He's a really quirky guy.
Is he?
Yeah, just quirky. His stories are hilarious. He speaks almost as much as he plays.
That's the sign of a good entertainer. You know, if you could, I learned that from Tim Williams when I first moved out west, and I watched him play, and I realized that he probably had only played 7 songs the entire show, but it was completely riveting.
Well, I remember from as a presenter, and we both know the world of the rider.
Yes.
And he had a very strange rider. He just didn't want anything. He just wanted to come and do his gig and didn't want any hospitality. But he had I was researching the new album and I found this really funny quote from him. It was in the Rolling Stone magazine when Mike Gordon was trying to coax him to do another record with him. He said, instead of using a tour bus, he drives himself, piling his guitars into a back of a rental car. He deals with venue staff directly, setting up on his own. He doesn't bring a band. The promoters know that I have no logistics, no rider, no tour manager. They get me in and out and be done with it, says the guitarist at 74. The crews are real happy to see me because they don't have to do a goddamn thing.
Well,
that
there
was
is something
his
to be
humor.
said about that. That's awesome. Yeah.
It's true. Like he was going to be mad if there was food backstage.
Don't give me the platter. I do not want the platter.
That's right.
Yeah, well, a lot of it goes to waste. It's kind of at the end of the show, you go, oh, especially if it's just one of you, you know, you get this huge platter and you feel bad at the end of the night because it's just going to get thrown away probably.
He's very monk-like. He comes and he plays his show and he's super chill and easy to deal with. So anyway,
That's
it was
awesome.
a pleasure.
That's really, I aspire to be that low key and chill. All right,
I
let's do
had
it.
a good time.
I certainly did too.
And we're going to end with one of your tunes. We want to hear your music.
Awesome.
What are we going to hear?
This is a tune from Boxcar Campfire called Roll All Night Long.
I gotta roll all night long.
I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long to get back to my baby. No time to rest, no time to sleep. Got an itch in my brain, go straight to my feet. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long to get back to my baby. 2 hands on the wheel, 1 eye on the clock, 2 feet on the gas, no plans to stop. Belts are drying out, the rubber's wearing thin. Got 1,000 miles of dust just to prove where I've been. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long to get back to my baby. The days on the road, 2 nights in the tank. Found my trailer laying down by the riverbank. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long to get back to my baby. 2 hands on the wheel, 1 eye on the clock, 2 feet on the gas, no plans to stop. Belts are drying out, the rubber's wearing thin. Got 1,000 miles of dust just to prove where I've been. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long. I gotta roll all night long to get back to my baby.